Marriage is supposed to be a sanctuary, a place where two people build something unshakable together. For 15 years, I believed mine was exactly that. I thought I knew every contour of my wife's heart, every dream she harbored, every fear that kept her awake at night. We'd built what I considered an enviable life, a comfortable home in the suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina, two beautiful kids who were the center of our universe, and careers that provided stability without consuming us entirely. My name is David Patterson, and until 6 months ago, I would have told you I had it all figured out. I was the guy who left motivational notes in my wife's lunch bag, who never missed a single one of my daughter's soccer games or my son's piano recitals. I was the husband who still brought flowers home on random Tuesdays, who planned anniversary trips months in advance, who believed that marriage was a garden you tended every single day. Jessica, my wife of 15 years, was my college sweetheart. We met during sophomore year at UNC Chapel Hill, in a cramped study room during finals week. She had this infectious laugh that could light up the darkest corners of any room. She was studying elementary education while I was grinding through my accounting degree. We were the couple everyone envied, the ones who made it look easy. After graduation, we did everything right. Got engaged, saved for a house, waited a few years before starting our family. Our daughter Emma came first, now 13 and sharp as a tack. Then our son Tyler, 11 and full of creative energy that never seemed to dim. I worked as a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown, pulling in a solid six-figure salary that afforded us a comfortable lifestyle. Jessica taught third grade at Meadowbrook Elementary, a job she claimed to love because it let her be home when the kids got out of school. Our life had rhythm, predictability, comfort. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe I'd confused comfort with happiness, routine with romance, coexistence with connection. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't announce itself with trumpets and warning signs. It creeps in quietly, disguised as late nights at work, new passwords on phones, sudden interests in fitness and fashion. It wears the mask of normalcy so convincingly that you dismiss your gut instinct as paranoia, your questions as insecurity. You gaslight yourself because the alternative, that the person you've built your entire adult life with is living a lie, is simply too devastating to entertain. This isn't a story about how I suspected something and played detective. This is a story about how I stumbled into the truth completely by accident, and how that single moment detonated everything I thought I knew about my life. It's about how quickly 15 years of marriage can disintegrate when the foundation turns out to be built on sand. It's about betrayal, yes, but it's also about what comes after. The rage, the humiliation, the desperate need to reclaim some sense of dignity from the wreckage. What you're about to read is my account of how everything fell apart, and how I made damn sure that the person who destroyed my family didn't walk away unscathed. This isn't a tale of forgiveness or reconciliation. This is about consequences, about making sure that actions have weight, that choices come with prices that must be paid in full. The day my marriage died started like any other Thursday in March. I woke up at 6:15, went through my morning routine, made coffee while Jessica got the kids ready for school. We moved around each other in the kitchen with the choreographed efficiency of people who'd shared the same space for over a decade. She kissed my cheek absently while grabbing her travel mug. I told her I'd probably be home late. We had month-end closes to finish at the firm. "No problem," she said, already scrolling through her phone. "I've got that curriculum planning meeting after school anyway. Might not be back until 7 or so." Emma rolled her eyes at Tyler's joke about something from YouTube. Normal. Everything was completely, utterly normal. I left for work at 7:30, fought through the usual traffic on I-77, and settled into my cubicle by 8:15. The morning disappeared into spreadsheets and client calls. Around 11, my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. A simple heart emoji, something she did occasionally to stay connected during busy days. I sent one back, then dove into a particularly complicated reconciliation that demanded my full attention. Lunch came and went. By 2 o'clock, I'd finished the most critical parts of the month-end review and realized I could probably leave by 4 instead of working late. I texted Jessica to let her know I'd be home early. Maybe we could order takeout and watch something together after the kids went to bed. The message showed as delivered but not read. She was probably still in her meeting. I wrapped up my work, said goodbye to my colleagues, and headed home. The drive back was lighter than usual, and I found myself in an unusually good mood. Maybe we could use the evening to reconnect. Lately, Jessica had seemed distant, distracted. I'd chalked it up to stress from work, the demands of raising two increasingly independent kids, the general wear of life. An unexpected evening together might be exactly what we needed. I pulled into our driveway at 4:45. Jessica's car wasn't there, which made sense if her meeting was running long. I let myself in through the garage, loosened my tie, and headed to the kitchen for a beer. That's when I noticed her laptop open on the kitchen table, screen still glowing. She must have forgotten it in her rush this morning. Jessica was usually attached to that thing. She used it for lesson planning, grade tracking, everything related to her job. I walked over to close it, not wanting to waste the battery. The screen showed her email inbox. I wasn't trying to snoop. I really wasn't. But the preview of the topmost message caught my eye because the sender's name was Brian K., and the subject line read, "Can't wait for tonight." I stared at the screen, my hand frozen on the laptop's edge. The battery icon glowed in the corner. 43%. Plenty of life left in it. Can't wait for tonight. 5 words that didn't mean anything yet. 5 words that could be perfectly innocent. A parent-teacher conference, a school board meeting, a surprise party for a colleague. My mind cycled through possibilities, each one more desperate than the last, because somewhere beneath my conscious thought, in that primitive part of the brain that recognizes danger before the higher functions catch up, I already knew. I pulled out the chair and sat down. The email preview showed only the subject line and the first sentence. "I've been thinking about you all day." The sender's name, Brian K., meant nothing to me. Jessica had never mentioned anyone named Brian. Not a colleague, not a parent of one of her students, not a friend from her book club or yoga classes or any of the dozen other social circles she moved through. My finger hovered over the trackpad. This was the moment. I could close the laptop, walk away, preserve whatever was left of my ignorance. In an hour, Jessica would come home from wherever she actually was, and I could hand her the computer with some comment about finding it on the table, battery draining. We'd eat dinner, help Tyler with his math homework, watch Emma practice her presentation for social studies, go to bed, pretend I'd never seen those 5 words. I clicked. The email opened, and the kitchen seemed to tilt sideways. "I've been thinking about you all day, about last weekend, about your laugh when I kissed that spot behind your ear, about the way you said my name when we were in bed at the Riverside Inn. I keep replaying it in my head during meetings, and I'm pretty sure my team thinks I've lost my mind because I can't stop smiling. Tonight can't come soon enough. Same place, 6 p.m.? I'll bring the wine you liked. We can order room service again and not leave until checkout tomorrow morning. Tell David you're at the teaching conference in Raleigh like we planned. 2 nights this time. 2 whole nights where you're just mine. I love you, Jess. I know we said we wouldn't say it yet, but I can't help it. I love you." B. The words didn't process all at once. They came in fragments, each one landing like a physical blow. Last weekend. The teaching workshop in Columbia she'd attended. The one where she'd stayed overnight because the sessions ran late. The one I'd encouraged her to attend because professional development was important, because she deserved time to invest in her career. Riverside Inn. I Googled it automatically, my accountant's brain demanding data. Columbia, South Carolina. 4 stars. Boutique hotel. Romantic getaway destination. Tell David you're at the teaching conference in Raleigh. My phone sat on the counter where I'd left it. I picked it up with numb fingers and scrolled to Jessica's text from this morning. Curriculum meeting after school, then drinks with the team. Probably home by 7. Love you. Not a curriculum meeting, a hotel room. With Brian K., who knew which spot behind her ear made her laugh, who had spent last weekend in bed with my wife, who loved her, who she apparently loved back, because she'd said his name in a way that made him replay it during meetings. I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the tile. The sound was too loud in the silent house, and I had the irrational urge to apologize to no one. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the counter, focusing on the cool granite beneath my palms. 15 years, 2 children, a mortgage, joint bank accounts and retirement plans, and a vacation to Hilton Head booked for July. Season tickets to Emma's soccer league. Tyler's piano recital next month where Jessica and I always sat together in the third row, her hand in mine, beaming with pride. I love you, Jess. How long? The question surfaced through the static in my head. How long had this been happening? I returned to the laptop, opened her email application fully. The folder structure was neat. She organized her digital life the same way she organized everything else. Inbox. Sent. Trash. And there, tucked between school and personal, a folder labeled Conference Materials. I clicked it. 63 emails. The oldest dated back 7 months. I opened them in chronological order, watching my marriage dissolve in reverse. The first few were professional, polite. Jessica, it was great meeting you at the literacy workshop last August. I'd love to continue our conversation about differentiated instruction strategies. Would you be interested in collaborating on a presentation for the spring conference? Brian Kimball. I found his full name in an email signature. 4th grade teacher at Riverside Elementary. Master's degree in education from Appalachian State. Email address, phone number, even a photo. Late 30s, dark hair, wearing a tie with cartoon books on it. The kind of wholesome, dedicated educator image that probably charmed parents and administrators alike. The emails progressed. Professional collaboration became friendly banter. Friendly banter became personal conversations. By October, they were emailing daily. By November, the tone had shifted into something I recognized because it was the same tone Jessica and I had used 20 years ago when we were falling in love across campus at Chapel Hill. I can't stop thinking about our coffee yesterday. You have this way of seeing the world that makes everything seem more vibrant. I know this is complicated, but I have to be honest. I look forward to your emails more than anything else in my day. We should probably stop this before it goes somewhere we can't come back from. But I don't want to stop. Do you? Her response. No. I don't want to stop either. That was dated December 3rd. 2 days before our 15th anniversary. The anniversary where she'd surprised me with tickets to see the Hornets play because she knew I'd been wanting to go. Where we'd had dinner at that Italian place downtown, and she'd held my hand across the table and told me she loved me, that she was grateful for the life we'd built. The emails after December were careful. They'd moved their conversations somewhere else. Text messages, probably, or some app I didn't know about. But the emails that remained were coordination, meeting times, hotel reservations, careful schedules worked around school events and family obligations. January 15th. Can you get away this weekend? There's a bed and breakfast in Asheville. February 9th. I told him I'm going to visit my college roommate in Atlanta. We have 2 nights. March 2nd. The Riverside Inn has a cancellation for next weekend. I can say it's a workshop. Last weekend. The Columbia workshop that never existed. I checked our credit card statements, pulling them up on my phone. Jessica's card showed a charge to the Riverside Inn, $247. I'd seen it when I reviewed our accounts on Monday, the way I did every week. I'd noticed it. I'd even thought briefly that it seemed expensive for a hotel room at a teaching workshop, but then I'd moved on to the next line item because I trusted my wife. Trust. The word tasted bitter. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Meeting's running long. Might be closer to 7:30. Did you end up staying late at work? I stared at the message. She was somewhere with Brian Kimball right now. Some hotel room, probably already checked in, waiting for him to arrive with wine. She'd showered this morning in our bathroom, kissed me goodbye in our kitchen, told me she loved me, and then planned to spend the night in another man's bed. My fingers moved across the screen. Yeah, still at the office. Lots to catch up on. Take your time. 3 dots appeared, then, you're the best. Love you. I set the phone down before I threw it. The rational part of my brain, The part that had built a career on analyzing data and making sound decisions started cataloging information, evidence, timeline, documentation. But underneath that, something else was building. A cold, methodical anger that felt nothing like the explosive rage I might have expected. I took photos of every email with my phone. Methodical, thorough. Then I forwarded the entire folder to my personal email address, the one Jessica didn't have access to. I cleared the sent folder on her account, deleted the forwarding record, covered my tracks the way she'd been covering hers. When I finished, I closed the laptop and positioned it exactly as I'd found it. Battery at 38% now. The house was still empty, still silent. In 90 minutes, Jessica would walk through that door with her teacher bag and her carefully constructed lie, and I would have to decide what to do with what I knew. But first, I needed to understand exactly how deep this went. The clock on the microwave read 5:47 p.m. 90 minutes until Jessica walked through that door with whatever lies she'd prepared for the evening. I sat at the kitchen table, the laptop still open in front of me, and felt something cold settle into my chest. Not the hot rage I'd expected, but something harder, clearer. I closed the laptop carefully, wiped down the touchpad and edges with my sleeve and positioned it exactly as I'd found it. Angle slightly askew, power cord trailing toward the outlet, her reading glasses resting beside it. Every detail mattered now. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Still good for Sunday dinner? The kids have been asking about my pot roast." I stared at the message. Sunday dinner. 4 days away. In 4 days, would we still be pretending to be a family? Would Emma and Tyler still have their pot roast tradition with Grandma? Or would I have already detonated their entire world? "Sounds great," I typed back. "See you then." The lie came easily. I'd had 15 years of practice believing in something that wasn't real. What was one more text message? I stood up, walked to the refrigerator, pulled out a beer I didn't want, and tried to think. The evidence was secured, forwarded to 3 different email accounts I'd set up years ago for various purposes, photographed on my phone, backed up to a cloud service Jessica didn't know existed. But evidence for what exactly? The introduction to our story promised consequences. I'd meant that when I wrote it, or thought it, or however these things work when you're living through something that feels like it's already been written. But standing in my kitchen, drinking a beer at 5:52 p.m. on a Thursday, I realized I had no idea what consequences actually looked like. Confront her tonight? Watch her scramble for explanations? See which lies she'd choose? The thought had a certain appeal, but it felt too reactive, too emotional. I'd spent 15 years being the steady one, the planner, the man who thought 3 moves ahead. That's what made me good at my job, seeing the whole board, understanding how each piece moved. I needed to see the whole board. My phone was still in my hand. I opened the browser and typed "Divorce Attorney Charlotte NC" into the search bar, then stopped. It was 5:54 p.m. on a Thursday. Even if I called someone, what would I say? My wife's cheating, I found emails, I want to file for divorce, can you fit me in before she gets home in 90 minutes? No. This required planning, strategy. I deleted the search and instead pulled up our banking app. Joint checking, joint savings, Emma's college fund, Tyler's college fund. Everything neatly organized, everything transparent. We'd always been a team with finances, or so I'd thought. I checked the transaction history, scrolling back through March, then February, then January. There, January 18th. Cash withdrawal, $300. ATM on Providence Road, 6:47 p.m. I remembered that night. Jessica said she was getting drinks with her teacher friend Amy after a staff meeting. I'd stayed home with the kids, helped Tyler with his science project, drove Emma to her friend's house. January 31st. Another $300. Same ATM, 7:15 p.m. February 14th, Valentine's Day. We'd gone to dinner at that Italian place we loved, the one where we had our first date back at Chapel Hill. She'd seemed distracted, checking her phone twice during the meal. I'd assumed she was worried about the kids. We'd left them with a babysitter, something we rarely did on weeknights. Now I knew better. Brian had sent her an email that afternoon. I'd seen it in the folder. Thinking about you today. Wish I could be the one taking you to dinner. She'd read that message, smiled at whatever he'd written, then come home and made love to me with what I'd thought was genuine passion. The beer tasted like ash. I set it down. February 21st. 250. March 7th. $200. March 14th. $300. Cash couldn't be traced. Cash didn't leave a paper trail linking her to hotel rooms or dinners or whatever else she was spending it on. She'd thought this through. My wife, the elementary school teacher who forgot to pay the electric bill half the time, who needed me to handle our taxes because numbers made her anxious, she'd planned this carefully enough to hide cash withdrawals in our joint account that I reviewed every month. I'd seen them. I'd looked right at them and thought nothing of it because I trusted her. The cold thing in my chest grew colder. 6:08 p.m. I needed to move, to do something other than stand in my kitchen cataloging betrayals. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, still decorated with the framed photos of our wedding, our honeymoon in Savannah, Emma's birth, Tyler's first birthday. 15 years of memories arranged on the walls like evidence of something real. I opened Jessica's closet. Her clothes hung neatly, organized by type and color the way she liked. Work clothes on the left, casual in the middle, dressy on the right. I pushed through the work section, looking for something I hadn't consciously registered before. There. A new blouse, tag still attached. Cream-colored silk, expensive looking. Not her usual style. Jessica typically bought practical clothes from Target or Old Navy, things that could survive third graders in art projects. This was from Nordstrom, $180 according to the tag. Next to it, a dress I'd never seen. Black, fitted, definitely not appropriate for teaching 8-year-olds. Also from Nordstrom. $240. I checked the purchase dates on the tags. The blouse, March 8th. The dress, February 19th. She was buying new clothes for him. Spending our money I earned sitting in a cubicle doing month-end close while she was planning her next hotel rendezvous, to look good for Brian Kimball. My hands were shaking. I stepped back from the closet, forced myself to breathe. This was good, I told myself. This was evidence, not just emails that could be explained away as emotional affairs that never turned physical, though the Riverside Inn reference made that defense laughable, but financial evidence, withdrawals, purchases, a pattern of deception that went beyond words on a screen. I pulled out my phone and photographed the tags, the clothes, the closet. Then I went to her dresser. Her jewelry box sat on top, the wooden one I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. I opened it. Her wedding ring sat in the small compartment on the right, the ring she wore every day, except apparently when she was with Brian. I'd never noticed her taking it off, but she must have. You don't spend 2 nights at a hotel with your lover while wearing your husband's ring. Or maybe she did. Maybe that was part of the thrill. I closed the jewelry box before I could throw it against the wall. 6:23 p.m. I went back downstairs, sat at the kitchen table, and made myself think like an accountant instead of a betrayed husband. What did I know? What could I prove? What did I need? Jessica was having an affair with Brian Kimball. 7 months of emails proved emotional infidelity at minimum. References to the Riverside Inn proved physical infidelity. Cash withdrawals suggested premeditation and deception. New clothes suggested ongoing investment in the relationship. What did I need? Documentation of everything. Financial records, email records. Evidence of when she was supposed to be where versus where she actually was. A timeline that would hold up not just in my own mind, but in court. Because this was going to court. I knew that now, sitting in my kitchen at 6:26 p.m., waiting for my wife to come home from her lover's bed. This wasn't something we were going to work through in counseling. This wasn't a rough patch or a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was 7 months of deliberate choices. 7 months of looking me in the eye and lying. 7 months of kissing our children goodnight and then texting another man. I opened my laptop, not hers, and created a new folder. I labeled it Tax Documents 2019 because Jessica never looked at tax documents. Then I started building a spreadsheet. Date, event, evidence, location. I worked methodically, pulling from the emails I'd forwarded to myself, cross-referencing with our bank statements, checking our shared calendar for the nights she'd claimed to be at meetings or workshops. The pattern was damning. Every curriculum planning session corresponded to a cash withdrawal. Every professional development workshop matched an email from Brian about hotel reservations. By 6:52 p.m., I had a spreadsheet with 37 entries. By 7 p.m., I had a plan. I sat there until the shadows in the kitchen stretched long across the floor, my laptop screen glowing in the dimming light. The spreadsheet was complete. 37 entries, each one a documented lie, each one a choice she'd made to betray everything we'd built. I'd cross-referenced every hotel charge with her calendar, every cash withdrawal with an email mentioning dinner or gifts. The pattern was so clear it could have been one of my audit reports. My phone buzzed. Emma. Dad, practice ran late. Can you pick me up? I glanced at the time. 6:40. Jessica would be leaving soon to meet him. Be there in 10 minutes, sweetheart. I forwarded one final batch of screenshots to my secure email, then closed Jessica's laptop exactly as I'd found it. The coffee mug went back in its spot, still half full and cold. I grabbed my keys and headed out, my mind already calculating the next steps. Emma was waiting by the field entrance, her soccer bag slung over one shoulder, still in her practice gear. She climbed into the passenger seat with the easy confidence of a 13-year-old who'd never had reason to doubt her world. Coach made us run extra drills. Regionals are in 3 weeks. She buckled her seatbelt, then looked at me. You okay, Dad? You look weird. Just a long day at work, month-end close. She accepted this without question. I'd used that excuse 1,000 times. Where's Mom? Curriculum meeting. The lie came out smooth, practiced. I'd probably told it for her a dozen times over the past 7 months, covering for meetings that never happened. Again, she had one last week. New state standards, I said, pulling out of the parking lot. Emma scrolled through her phone, and I was grateful for her distraction. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was racing through scenarios. Jessica would be home by 7:30. That's what she'd told the kids this morning. But the email said 6 o'clock. 2 nights, Brian had written. Starting tonight. She wasn't planning to come home at all. I'd need to act surprised when she called with whatever excuse she'd invented. A sick colleague who needed coverage. A last-minute professional development opportunity. Something that sounded responsible and unavoidable. Something that would make me the unreasonable one if I objected. Tyler was already home when we pulled into the driveway, sprawled on the couch with his tablet. The house smelled like the pizza he'd apparently ordered. Another Thursday night routine when Jessica worked late. Did you ask before ordering? Emma called out, dropping her bag by the door. Dad said I could last week. Last week, Mom was here to say yes. I let them bicker, their voices a familiar soundtrack that usually meant home and safety, and everything being right with the world. Now it just sounded like evidence of what was about to be destroyed. My phone rang at 7:15. Jessica's photo filled the screen. A picture from last summer, her smile bright and genuine, or at least I'd thought it was genuine. Everything was suspect now. Hey, I answered. David, I'm so sorry. Her voice had that apologetic lilt she'd perfected over the years. Karen just called. She's got the flu, and someone needs to cover her classroom tomorrow. I have to go help her finish her lesson plans tonight. Karen. I made a mental note. Easy enough to verify. Tonight? It's already past 7. I know, but she's really sick and you know how it is. I can't leave her hanging. A pause. I might just crash at her place. She lives 40 minutes from here and by the time we're done it'll be late. There it was. The overnight excuse delivered with just the right mix of guilt and necessity. Jessica, it's Thursday. The kids have school tomorrow. I know, and I'm sorry. But Emma's 13. She can handle her own morning routine, and you'll be there. Another pause. Please don't make this difficult. A colleague needs help. The audacity of it struck me like a physical blow. She was asking me to make this easy for her, to be the understanding husband who supported his wife's dedication to her profession while she drove to a hotel to sleep with another man. Fine, I said. Tell Karen I hope she feels better. Thank you. I'll text the kids. Love you. She hung up before I could respond. I stood in the kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd discovered the truth just hours ago, and felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Not rage. That would come later. This was clarity. Emma appeared in the doorway. Was that Mom? Yeah. She's helping Mrs. Karen with lesson plans. She'll be home tomorrow. On a school night? Emma's expression shifted to annoyance. She's going to miss my history presentation? I'd forgotten about that. Jessica had promised to attend the parent viewing session tomorrow afternoon. I'll be there, I said. It's not the same. No, I thought. It's really not. Tyler wandered in, still holding his tablet. Is Mom bringing dinner? We've got pizza. Again? Again. I sent them both off to finish homework, then returned to my laptop. Jessica's text to the kids popped up in the family chat. So sorry, guys. Have to help a sick friend. Dad's in charge. Be good. Love you both. 3 exclamation points. She always used exclamation points when she was overcompensating. I opened a new browser window and started searching. Divorce attorneys, Charlotte NC, yielded thousands of results. I filtered for family law specialists with high ratings, then narrowed it further to those who handled high-asset divorces. Our house was worth $400,000. My 401k had grown to just over $300,000. Jessica's teacher's pension, the kids' college funds, the investment accounts, we'd accumulated more than I'd realized. One name kept appearing, Lawrence Brennan. His website was professional without being flashy. 23 years of experience. Former family court judge. A photo showed a man in his late 50s with steel gray hair and the kind of face that had seen every variation of human failure. His office offered consultations starting at 7 a.m. I booked the first available slot, tomorrow morning, 7:30. Then I opened my calendar and started planning. I'd need to take a personal day, first one in 3 years. I'd need to move money into an account Jessica couldn't access, not to hide it, but to protect it. I'd need to change passwords, secure documents, and make sure the evidence I'd gathered couldn't be deleted or explained away. Most importantly, I'd need to decide when to detonate this. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Thanks for understanding. You're the best. I stared at those words until they stopped making sense. The best. The best what? The best fool? The best cover story? The best man to hold down the fort while she built a new life with someone else? I typed back, drive safe. Then I screenshot that exchange too and added it to my evidence folder. By 9 p.m., both kids were in bed. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic on I-77. I sat at the kitchen table, her spot now, not mine, and opened the spreadsheet one more time. 37 entries, 7 months, 15 years of marriage. The numbers told a story, but they didn't tell me what happened next. That part was up to me. I thought about calling her. Confronting her right now, while she was probably in some hotel room with him, forcing her to choose in real time between her comfortable lie and an uncomfortable truth. But that would be emotional, reactive, the kind of thing that felt satisfying in the moment but left you vulnerable later. No, I'd spent 15 years being the steady one, the reliable one, the one who planned ahead and thought things through. I wasn't going to stop now. I closed the laptop and went upstairs. Emma's door was cracked open, her nightlight casting shadows on the wall. Tyler's room was dark, his breathing deep and even. They had no idea that tomorrow their world would start to change. Neither did Jessica. But I did. And for tonight, that knowledge would have to be enough. The alarm went off at 6, same as every morning. I reached over and silenced it before the second beep, muscle memory from 15 years of not wanting to wake Jessica. Old habits. She wasn't there, of course. Still at her conference. Still with him. I showered, dressed in my charcoal suit, the one Jessica always said made me look distinguished, and went through the motions of breakfast. Emma wandered down at 6:30, already scrolling through her phone. "Where's Mom?" "Conference in Raleigh, remember? She'll be back tonight." The lie came easily now. I'd had practice. Emma grunted, poured herself cereal. Tyler appeared 10 minutes later, hair sticking up in 3 directions, and I felt that familiar tug in my chest. They had no idea. They'd gone to bed in one world and would wake up, really wake up, in another. Just not yet. "Dad, can you sign my permission slip?" Tyler pushed a crumpled paper across the table. "Field trip to the Science Museum next week." I smoothed it out, scrawled my signature. Next week. Would we still be living in this house next week? Would I be making breakfast in this kitchen, or would everything be divided, split, parceled out by lawyers and mediators? "Thanks." Tyler shoveled cereal into his mouth. "Mom already signed it, but Mrs. Patterson said we need both." "Mrs. Patterson?" I wondered if Brian called her that, or if he used her first name. "Jessica." "Jess." "Baby." My hand tightened around my coffee mug. "You okay, Dad?" Emma was watching me, that sharp gaze that missed nothing. "Fine, just thinking about work." I checked my watch. 7:10. I needed to leave in 5 minutes to make the appointment with Brennan. "Listen, I have an early meeting downtown, so I'm heading out. You two good to get to school?" "We're not 12, Dad." Emma rolled her eyes. "Well, Tyler is, but you know what I mean." 13, Tyler protested. "Not until June." I let them bicker, committed the sound to memory. Normal sibling squabbling on a Friday morning. The last normal morning, maybe, for a long time. I grabbed my briefcase, kissed them both on the head. Tyler tolerated it, Emma dodged, and headed for the garage. The drive downtown took 23 minutes. I'd mapped it last night, calculated traffic patterns, built in a buffer. Can't be late for the meeting that dismantles your life. Brennan's office occupied the 14th floor of a glass tower on Tryon Street. The lobby was all marble and chrome, the elevator smooth and silent. A receptionist with a practiced smile directed me to a conference room. "Mr. Brennan will be right with you. Coffee? Water?" "Coffee, black." She returned with a porcelain cup and saucer, not the styrofoam I expected, and left me alone with the view. Charlotte stretched out below, morning sun glinting off buildings, cars streaming along the streets like blood cells through arteries. Somewhere out there, Jessica was probably waking up next to Brian, maybe ordering room service, maybe planning what lies she'd tell me tonight when she got home from the conference. "Mr. Patterson?" I turned. Lawrence Brennan was younger than I expected, mid-40s maybe, with wire-rimmed glasses and the kind of calm, assessing expression I imagined surgeons wore. He shook my hand, firm but not aggressive, and sat across from me. "Thank you for seeing me on short notice. Your email suggested urgency." He opened a leather portfolio, pulled out a legal pad. "You mentioned discovering your wife's affair yesterday. Before we begin, I want to establish what you're looking for. Revenge? Reconciliation? A clean break? Divorce? As favorable to me as possible." I heard how cold I sounded. Didn't care. I want custody of my kids. I want the house. And I want her to understand there are consequences. Brennan nodded, writing. "North Carolina is an equitable distribution state, not community property. That gives us some flexibility. Walk me through what you found." I did. Methodically, chronologically, the way I'd approach any audit. The laptop, the emails, the documentation I'd compiled. Brennan listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. "You forwarded the emails to yourself?" 3 separate accounts, personal, work, and a new one I created just for this. "Smart. And you didn't confront her?" "No." "Good." He tapped his pen against the pad. Confrontation is emotional satisfaction, but it costs you strategic advantage. Right now, she doesn't know you know. That's leverage. "How long can I wait?" Depends on your goals and your tolerance. Brennan leaned back. North Carolina allows fault-based divorce. Adultery is grounds. But here's what most people don't understand. Proving adultery doesn't automatically get you everything you want. The court cares about equitable distribution of assets, child custody based on best interests, and whether marital misconduct affected the economic condition of the marriage. She spent marital funds on the affair. Hotels, clothes, dinners. How much, approximately? 2,000, give or take. That I can prove. Brennan wrote that down. Helpful, but not devastating in the context of your overall marital estate. What's your annual household income? Combined? Around 210,000. I make 150, she makes 60. Assets? Home equity? Retirement accounts? Savings? House is worth 480. We owe 220. So 260 in equity. Retirement accounts? Maybe 300,000 total. Savings? About 40,000. He calculated silently. So roughly 600,000 in marital assets. Her provable affair spending is less than 0.5% of that. It's evidence of misconduct, but it won't shift the entire distribution in your favor. I felt something deflate in my chest. So what's the point? I didn't say it was meaningless. I said it won't do all the work. Brennan leaned forward. Here's what adultery does give you. Moral high ground in negotiations, potential leverage for a better settlement, and in some cases, impact on alimony. North Carolina allows the court to deny alimony to a spouse who committed adultery. Given your income disparity, she might otherwise have a claim. This could eliminate it. She shouldn't get a dime. Understood. But let's talk custody, because that's where your energy should focus. Courts in North Carolina prioritize the best interests of the child. Adultery alone doesn't disqualify someone from custody unless it's shown to negatively impact the children. She's been lying to them for 7 months. Has she been neglectful, absent, putting them in unsafe situations? I thought about it. Hated the answer. No, she's been a good mother, present, involved. Then we're likely looking at shared custody, possibly with you as primary, if we can establish you've been the more consistent caregiver. Tell me about your typical division of parenting responsibilities. We spent the next 20 minutes dissecting my marriage in practical terms. Who drove carpool? Who attended parent-teacher conferences? Who stayed home with sick kids? Who helped with homework, made lunches, scheduled dentist appointments? The answer, I realized as I talked, was mostly me. Not because Jessica was absent, but because my schedule was more flexible, my job less demanding of evening hours. She had curriculum nights, parent volunteers, after-school meetings. This is good, Brennan said. You've been the primary caregiver in many respects. That matters. Do you have documentation? Emails to teachers? Calendar entries? Anything that shows your involvement? I can get it. Do that. And start keeping a detailed log of your parenting activities going forward. Times, dates, specifics. It feels clinical, but it's evidence. He asked more questions about Jessica's relationship with the children, about my work schedule, about whether I had any skeletons in my own closet, affairs, financial misconduct, anything she could use against me. Nothing, I said. 15 years. I was faithful every single day. Something flickered in Brennan's expression. Sympathy, maybe. Or just professional acknowledgement of a tactical advantage. Here's what I recommend, he said finally. Don't confront her yet. Continue documenting. If she's planning to see him again, let it happen and gather more evidence. Photos if possible, though be careful. North Carolina has strict privacy laws. Nothing illegal. How long? A few more weeks, ideally. Build an unassailable case. Then we file and we do it strategically. Serve her in a way that maximizes your position. Serve her how? Brennan's smile was thin. That depends on how much you want her to feel the consequences. I spent the weekend documenting everything. Not just the affair, though that remained the centerpiece of my evidence, but the entire architecture of our family life. The school calendar with every event marked. The medical records showing which parent took the kids to appointments. The grocery receipts, the permission slips I'd signed, the parent-teacher conferences I'd attended alone because Jessica had curriculum planning. Emma's soccer tournament on Saturday gave me perfect cover. I sat in my folding chair on the sideline, cheering at the appropriate moments while my phone captured screenshots of our joint bank statements going back 2 years. Tyler's piano recital on Sunday afternoon provided another opportunity. While other parents recorded their children's performances, I was photographing the credit card bills that showed Jessica's new wardrobe purchases. The kids noticed nothing. Why would they? Dad was exactly where he always was, present, engaged, supportive. I bought Emma her favorite Thai food after her team won. I took Tyler for ice cream after he nailed his Chopin piece. We were the Patterson family, doing what the Patterson family did. Jessica spent most of Saturday at Melissa's house. I'd already verified through the bank records that she'd withdrawn $200 in cash Friday afternoon. When she came home at 6:30 with perfect makeup and wearing the new jeans I'd found receipts for, she kissed my cheek and asked how the tournament went. Emma scored twice, I said. You should have seen the second goal. She completely faked out their defender. I wish I could have been there. She pulled a container of leftover pad thai from the refrigerator. Melissa and I just lost track of time. You know how it is when you're planning curriculum. I knew exactly how it was. Sunday evening, after the kids were in bed, I added 17 new entries to my spreadsheet. The document had grown to 41 pages. Dates, times, locations, amounts. Every lie now had a corresponding piece of evidence. Every late meeting matched a cash withdrawal. Every conference aligned with Brian Kimball's schedule, information I'd gathered from Riverside Elementary's publicly available staff calendar. Brennan had told me to document my role as primary caregiver. I was building something more comprehensive than he'd probably expected. A complete record of 15 years of marriage, with the last 7 months highlighted in red. Monday morning arrived with its usual choreography. Jessica made coffee while I packed lunches. Emma complained about a history project. Tyler couldn't find his math homework. We moved through the kitchen like dancers who'd rehearsed the routine 10,000 times. Don't forget Tyler has piano at 4, Jessica said, grabbing her travel mug. I've got a staff meeting that might run late. I checked my phone, pulling up the calendar I'd started keeping. The real one, not the family calendar on the refrigerator. No problem. I'll work from home this afternoon. She paused, her hand on her purse. You don't have to do that. I can probably... It's fine. I've got some reports I can handle remotely. I smiled. Besides, I want to hear him practice that new piece. Something flickered across her face. Guilt? Annoyance? It vanished before I could identify it. You're a good dad. I try. After everyone left, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and the burner phone I'd purchased Saturday afternoon. Cash transaction, different part of town, a store I'd never visited before. The phone had one purpose, to call Riverside Elementary. I dialed at 8:45 after morning announcements but before first period really got underway. Riverside Elementary, this is Paula speaking. Hi Paula, this is David Patterson. My son is in Mr. Kimball's 4th grade class, and I had a quick question about the spring concert schedule. Oh, I'm sorry, but Mr. Kimball teaches 4th grade at Riverside, and you said your son... Right, sorry. I kept my voice light, apologetic. My mistake. I'm actually calling about the joint staff development day that's coming up. My wife Jessica teaches at Meadowbrook, and she mentioned Mr. Kimball was coordinating some of the workshops. Staff development? Paula sounded confused. We don't have anything scheduled until April, and that's just internal. Are you sure you have the right school? You know what? I probably misunderstood. My wife mentioned working with some Riverside staff on curriculum alignment, and I must have gotten my wires crossed. Sorry to bother you. No problem at all. Have a great day. I ended the call and added the information to my notes. No joint staff development. No official curriculum coordination between Meadowbrook and Riverside. Just another lie in the foundation of sand. The burner phone went into my desk drawer, buried under old tax returns. I spent the rest of the morning actually working. Month-end close didn't care about personal crises. Numbers needed to reconcile. Reports needed to be filed. My boss had complimented me Friday on the quarterly analysis I'd submitted. Thorough as always, Patterson. If he only knew how thorough I could be. At 11:30, my regular phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Meeting running long. Might grab lunch out. Love you. I pulled up our credit card account on my laptop. Waited. At 12:15, a charge appeared. Riverside Inn Restaurant, Columbia, SC. $47. Columbia was 90 minutes away. She'd left school, driven 90 minutes, and was having lunch at the same hotel where she'd spent last weekend with Brian. On a Monday, during school hours. My hands were steady as I took the screenshot. Added it to the folder. Updated the spreadsheet. 41 pages became 42. The thing about betrayal is how it recontextualizes everything. That text, love you, would have meant something a month ago. Now it was just another data point. Another piece of evidence showing the gap between what she said and what she did. I made myself a sandwich, ate it at the kitchen table, checked the credit card account again at 1:30. Another charge, Riverside Inn, Columbia. Room service or minibar, probably. $62. She'd be back by 3 to maintain her cover. Would probably stop somewhere local, mess up her hair a bit, maybe buy something from the grocery store to explain the time. The performance would be flawless because she'd had 7 months of practice. I spent the afternoon reviewing our mortgage documents. The house was in both our names, purchased 12 years ago. We'd refinanced twice. Current equity, approximately $240,000. In North Carolina, marital property got divided equitably, not necessarily equally. Brennan had explained the distinction. Equitable means fair, he'd said, and fair takes into account a lot of factors, like who's been the primary caregiver, who's been faithful to the marriage, who deserves to maintain stability for the children's sake. At 3:45, I closed my laptop and drove to Tyler's school. He bounced into the car with his backpack and a drawing he'd made in art class, some kind of dragon breathing fire. That's incredible, buddy. Is that for the art show? Maybe. Mrs. Anderson said I should enter it. He buckled his seatbelt. Can we get a snack before piano? Sure, what sounds good? Smoothie? We stopped at the juice place near his piano teacher's house. Tyler got strawberry banana. I got something green that tasted like lawn clippings but supposedly had 17 vitamins. We sat at one of the outdoor tables and he told me about his day. A substitute teacher in science. A food fight that almost happened at lunch. His friend Owen's birthday party next weekend. Normal. Everything completely normal. My phone buzzed. Jessica. Just leaving school. Be home around 5:30. Do you want me to pick up dinner? I showed Tyler the text. Mom's asking about dinner. What do you think? Pizza, I texted back. Tyler votes pizza. I'll order. See you soon. 3 dots appeared, then, perfect. You're the best. Tyler finished his smoothie, and we drove to his piano lesson. I sat in Mrs. Bailey's, waiting room for 45 minutes, listening to scales and arpeggios through the door. Added 3 more entries to my phone's notes app. Updated my timeline. Cross-referenced Jessica's location with Brian Kimball's schedule. Everything documented, everything verified, everything building toward the moment when the foundation would finally, completely collapse. And she had no idea it was coming. The Tuesday morning routine played out like every other. I made breakfast, packed lunches, left a note in Emma's bag about her upcoming orthodontist appointment. Tyler wanted to show me a new song he'd been working on, so I sat with him at the piano for 10 minutes before school, watching his fingers find the keys with increasing confidence. Jessica came downstairs in a navy dress I'd never seen before. Nordstrom, probably. Another $200 I'd find when I checked the statements tonight. You look nice, I said, because that's what I would have said a month ago. She smiled, distracted. Thanks. Parent-teacher conferences this week? Want to look professional? I nodded and turned back to Tyler's sheet music, making a mental note. Parent-teacher conferences. I'd verify that with Meadowbrook's calendar later. After I dropped the kids at school, I sat in my car in the parking lot and pulled out my phone. The burner was in my briefcase. I'd started carrying it everywhere, but for this, I used my regular phone. I opened the calendar app and scrolled through Jessica's shared calendar, the one we'd maintained for years to coordinate our complicated family schedule. Parent-teacher conferences were listed for Wednesday and Thursday evening, 6 to 9 p.m. both nights. I screenshot the entries, then opened my browser and navigated to Meadowbrook Elementary's website. Their calendar showed the same thing. So that part was true, at least for now. But I'd learned that Jessica built her lies on foundations of truth. The conference might be real. That didn't mean she'd be there the whole time. I drove to work, merged onto I-77 with the rest of the morning commuters, and tried to focus on the day ahead. Month-end close was behind us, but we had a new client presentation at 2 that I needed to prepare for. Normal work, normal life. Everything normal while my wife planned her next hotel visit with her boyfriend. The rage came in waves now, unpredictable and intense. I'd be reviewing a spreadsheet or sitting in a meeting, and suddenly I'd see those emails again in my mind. Can't wait to have you all to myself again. I'd grip my pen until my knuckles went white, force my breathing to slow, remind myself that Brennan's strategy required patience. 2 weeks of documentation, he'd said. I was 6 days in. My phone buzzed during lunch. Jessica, texting. Forgot to mention, staying late tomorrow for conferences. Won't be home until 9:30 or so. Can you handle dinner? I stared at the message. Tomorrow was Wednesday, first night of conferences. Probably legitimate, but I'd verify her location anyway. The Find My Friends app we'd set up years ago for safety was still active on both our phones. She hadn't thought to turn it off, or maybe she didn't realize I'd actually started checking it. No problem, I texted back. I'll make spaghetti. The kids love it. Her reply came immediately. You're the best. Love you. I set the phone down and returned to my sandwich. The casual cruelty of it was almost impressive. Love you. 2 words she'd typed while probably thinking about Brian, while planning whatever she was actually doing tomorrow night, while living a completely separate life I'd known nothing about until 6 days ago. My coworker Alan stopped by my cubicle around 3. Hey, you okay? You've been quiet lately. Fine, I said. Just busy. The Grayson account is taking more time than I expected. He nodded, satisfied with the explanation, and wandered off. I wondered what I looked like from the outside. Probably the same as always. David Patterson, reliable senior accountant, devoted family man, everything under control. The presentation went well. I delivered my section smoothly, answered questions, smiled at appropriate moments. My boss complimented me afterward on the thorough analysis. I thanked him and returned to my desk, where I spent the last hour of the workday creating another entry in my documentation spreadsheet. Entry Amar 43, navy dress, never seen before, estimated $150–$250 based on similar items from previous Nordstrom purchases. Entry Summer 44, text message claiming late night tomorrow for parent-teacher conferences. Conferences verified as legitimate event, but arrival departure times to be monitored. I was becoming meticulous about this in a way that felt both necessary and slightly unhinged. But that's what Brennan wanted. Documentation, evidence, a paper trail so clear that Jessica couldn't spin her way out of it. That evening, I made chicken stir-fry while Emma did homework at the kitchen table, and Tyler practiced piano in the living room. Jessica came home at 6:15, kissed my cheek, asked about my day. I told her about the presentation. She told me about a student who'd finally mastered long division after struggling for weeks. We sounded like a married couple. We looked like a married couple. We were a lie. After dinner, after the kids were in bed, I sat in my home office with the door closed and went through my nightly routine. Checked the credit card statements. Nothing new today. Checked Jessica's location history from Find My Friends. Straight from school to home, no detours. Opened the burner phone and verified that Brian's school was still 90 minutes away. Still had no legitimate professional connection to Meadowbrook Elementary. Then I did something new. I opened Facebook on the burner and searched for Brian Kimball. I'd been avoiding this, not wanting to put a face to the name, but Suddenly, I needed to see him, needed to understand what she'd chosen over 15 years of marriage. His profile wasn't private. There he was. Brian Kimball, fourth grade teacher at Riverside Elementary, smiling in his profile photo with a golden retriever. Late 30s, maybe 40. Decent looking in a generic way. Brown hair, clean shaven, wearing a polo shirt and looking like every other suburban dad at the grocery store. I scrolled through his photos. Pictures of his classroom, decorated with student artwork, a hiking trip from last summer, a brewery visit with friends, and there, from 2 months ago, a photo that made my stomach clench. A sunset view from what looked like a hotel balcony, captioned, "Sometimes you need a getaway." The Riverside Inn had balconies. I'd looked at their website. I kept scrolling, looking for any trace of Jessica, but he'd been careful. No photos of them together, no tags, nothing obvious. But in a photo from a local restaurant dated 3 weeks ago, I could see part of someone's arm in the edge of the frame. Slender, wearing a silver bracelet I recognized because I'd given it to Jessica for our 10th anniversary. I screenshot everything, added it to my documentation folder, which now contained over 200 files. My phone buzzed. Jessica, from the bedroom. Coming to bed soon? In a few minutes, I replied. Just finishing some work stuff. I closed the burner phone, locked my computer, and sat in the dark office for a moment. Tomorrow was Wednesday. Parent-teacher conferences. I'd track her location throughout the evening, verify she was actually where she claimed to be. If she wasn't, that would be entry number 45, and Brennan would have even more ammunition. But part of me hoped she'd actually be at the conferences. Not because I wanted to believe in her again, that ship had sailed, but because I wasn't ready yet. I needed more time, more evidence, more distance between the man I'd been 6 days ago and the man I was becoming. When I finally went to bed, Jessica was already asleep or pretending to be. I lay on my side of the mattress, careful not to touch her, and stared at the ceiling. 14 more days of this, if I followed Brennan's timeline. 14 more days of breakfast and dinner and goodnight kisses and pretending everything was fine. I could do 14 days. I'd done 6 already. And when it was over, when I finally had enough evidence to bury her in court, when I served those papers in whatever devastating way Brennan had planned, she'd understand exactly what she'd thrown away. She'd understand that actions have consequences. The weekend arrived with its familiar rhythms. Saturday morning soccer for Emma, piano lessons for Tyler in the afternoon. Jessica suggested we all go out for dinner that evening. As a family, she said, touching my arm with what I recognize now as performance affection. The kind of touch designed to maintain appearances, to keep the machinery running smoothly while she dismantled everything behind the scenes. Sure, I said. That sounds great. We went to Romano's, a family Italian place we'd been going to for years. The kids ordered their usual dishes. Jessica laughed at Tyler's story about his music teacher. Emma showed us a video on her phone of her team's best plays from the morning's game. To anyone watching, we were the picture of suburban contentment. I ate my chicken parmesan and watched my wife lie with her entire body. The way she leaned into me in the booth. The way she reached across the table to squeeze my hand. The way she smiled at the kids with such apparent warmth. 7 months of practice had made her fluent in deception. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from the burner number I'd set up, the one tracking Jessica's phone location. I'd configured it to alert me whenever her device moved more than a mile from our house during unusual hours. Not relevant now. She was sitting right across from me, performing the role of devoted wife and mother. But the system was working, logging everything, building the record. "You okay, honey?" Jessica asked. "You seem distracted." The irony would have been funny if it weren't so grotesque. "Just thinking about month-end close," I said. "Big week coming up." She nodded sympathetically. "I know you work so hard." Tyler launched into another story, saving me from having to respond. I let the conversation flow around me, contributing where expected, laughing at the right moments, playing my part in this theater of normalcy. We got home around 8. The kids disappeared to their rooms. Jessica started loading the dishwasher while I wiped down the counters. Our usual division of labor, refined over 15 years of marriage. I'm going to turn in early, she said when we finished. I'm exhausted. It was 8:45. She was never in bed before 10. Okay, I said. I'll be up in a bit. Want to finish watching the game? She kissed my cheek and headed upstairs. I waited 15 minutes, then quietly climbed the stairs and paused outside our bedroom. The light was off. I could hear her breathing, already asleep. Or pretending to be. I went back downstairs to my office and opened the laptop. The tracking software showed Jessica's phone stationary in our bedroom. The email account I'd been monitoring showed nothing new since Thursday. I updated my spreadsheet with the day's observations. Saturday 3/11, family dinner at Romano's. Jay unusually affectionate in public. Retired to bed at 8:45 p.m., highly unusual. Brennan had said 2 weeks minimum. I was 7 days in. 7 days of documentation, of maintaining the facade, of sleeping next to someone who thought I was oblivious to her betrayal. The thing about systematic evidence gathering is that it requires patience. You can't rush it. You can't let emotion dictate the timeline. I'd spent my career building financial cases, tracking discrepancies, following paper trails. This was the same skill set, applied to the dissolution of my marriage. Sunday morning, Jessica announced she was going to the gym. This was new, another addition to her recent lifestyle changes. She'd joined a fitness center in January, part of what I'd initially interpreted as a New Year's resolution. Now I understood it as part of her transformation for Brian. I'll be back around noon, she said, dressed in expensive athletic wear I didn't remember seeing before. We can do something with the kids this afternoon. I nodded, already planning my own activities for the morning. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I was upstairs in our bedroom. I'd been methodical about searching the house during my initial discovery, but I wanted to be thorough. Her nightstand drawer yielded nothing new. The closet revealed more clothes with tags still attached, purchased with cash I could track in our bank statements. In the bathroom, I found a new perfume, different from the one she'd worn for the past decade. Another detail for the spreadsheet. But it was in her car that I found something I hadn't expected. I'd been avoiding the obvious step of searching her vehicle, worried about the risk of being caught. But with her at the gym in her new SUV, another recent purchase she'd justified as necessary for safety, I had access to her older sedan, the one she drove to work most days. The glove compartment held registration and insurance papers. The center console had the usual debris, receipts, loose change, a few pens. But tucked into the pocket behind the driver's seat, I found a small gift bag. Inside was a men's watch. Expensive. A Tag Heuer, the kind of thing that cost several $1,000s. The receipt was dated for next Friday, March 17th. Except the receipt was printed yesterday, Saturday, March 10th, from a jewelry store in Asheville. She'd bought Brian Kimball a watch. For what? His birthday? An anniversary of some kind? The 7-month mark of their affair? I photographed everything. The watch, the receipt, the gift bag. Then I carefully returned it all exactly as I'd found it, making sure the bag was positioned precisely as it had been. Back in my office, I added the new information to my documentation. The watch alone was worth noting, but the location was more interesting. The jewelry store was in Asheville, 90 minutes away. Jessica had claimed to be running errands locally yesterday afternoon, while I took the kids to Emma's friend's birthday party. Another lie. Another entry in the spreadsheet. I pulled up our credit card statements, looking for the charge. Nothing. Which meant she'd paid cash. I cross-referenced our bank records and found a withdrawal on Friday. $400 from an ATM near her school. The watch had cost $3,200 according to the receipt. Where had she gotten the rest of the money? I spent the next hour digging through our financial records with the kind of forensic attention I usually reserved for client audits. What I found made my stomach turn. She'd opened a separate checking account. I found the statements in her email, buried in a folder I'd initially overlooked. The account had been opened in September, just after the affair started. Monthly deposits of $500, always in cash. The current balance was just over $4,000. She'd been skimming from our household budget. The grocery money, the kids' activity funds, the cash I kept in my office desk for incidentals. Small amounts, never enough to notice individually, but accumulated over 7 months into a secret fund for her affair. I documented everything. Screenshots of the bank statements, photographs of the spreadsheet I created tracking the deposits, cross-references to our household budget showing the discrepancies. The watch was supposed to be given to Brian next Friday, which meant she had plans to see him. I checked her school calendar. No conferences, no meetings scheduled. I checked the tracking on her phone, looking at patterns from previous Fridays. 3 of the last 6 Fridays showed her phone stationary at locations that weren't school or home during evening hours. Hotels, all of them. The Riverside Inn twice. The Marriott in Concord once. Friday was 6 days away. Brennan had said 2 weeks minimum, which would put me at this coming Thursday. Close enough. I heard Jessica's car in the driveway. Noon, exactly when she'd said she'd be home. I closed all the windows on my computer, cleared my search history, and walked into the kitchen just as she came through the door. "Good workout?" I asked. She was flushed, her hair damp with sweat. "Great," she said. "I'm going to shower, then we can take the kids somewhere. Maybe the park?" "Sounds perfect." She headed upstairs. I stood in the kitchen, thinking about the watch hidden in her car, the secret bank account, the planned meeting with Brian on Friday. Brennan had said to wait, to build the case, to be patient. But I was done being patient. I pulled out my phone and sent him a text. "Need to move up the timeline. Can we meet Monday morning?" His response came within minutes. 9 a.m., my office. I deleted the exchange and pocketed my phone. Upstairs, I could hear the shower running. In a few minutes, Jessica would come down, and we'd take the kids to the park, and we'd play at being a family for a few more hours. But the end game was in motion now. By this time next week, everything would be different. The reckoning. Monday morning, I sat across from Brennan in the same conference room where this had started. 10 days since I'd discovered the emails. 10 days of documentation, surveillance, and controlled rage. "Walk me through why we're accelerating," Brennan said, pen poised over his legal pad. I showed him the photographs of the watch, the secret bank account statements, the pattern of Friday meetings. He studied each image carefully, occasionally making notes. "She's planning to see him this Friday," I said. "She's bought him a $3,000 watch with money she's been skimming from our household budget for 7 months. I'm done waiting." Brennan nodded slowly. "The separate account is significant. It shows premeditation, financial deception beyond the affair itself. And the timing. You said Friday?" "Based on the pattern, yes. She'll claim she's doing something else, probably another fake conference or meeting, and she'll be at a hotel with him. Do you want to catch them together? We could hire a private investigator, get photographic evidence." I'd considered this. The thought of having actual photos of Jessica and Brian together had a certain appeal. Undeniable proof, images that couldn't be explained away. But it also felt like torture I didn't need to endure. "No," I said. "I have enough. The emails, the financial records, the location data. I don't need to see it." "Then here's what I recommend." Brennan leaned forward. "We file tomorrow. The court requires a 1-year separation period before a divorce can be finalized in North Carolina, but we can file for divorce from bed and board immediately based on adultery. That's essentially a legal separation that addresses custody, support, and asset division while we wait out the year. What about serving her?" "That's where we can be strategic." His expression was carefully neutral. "You could have her served at home, at work, or we could arrange for service at a location of your choosing. Given what you've told me about Friday, there's an option that would be impactful." I understood what he was suggesting. Serve her at the hotel. In front of Brian. Maximum humiliation, maximum consequence. The vindictive part of me wanted exactly that. Wanted to see her face when the process server handed her the papers. Wanted Brian to understand that his relationship with Jessica came with a price. Wanted everyone to see the truth she'd been hiding. But I thought about Emma and Tyler. about how news traveled in our community, about whether that moment of satisfaction was worth the additional damage it would cause. Serve her at home, I said finally. Saturday morning when the kids are at their activities. Emma has soccer at 9, Tyler has piano at 10. I'll make sure they're both gone. Brennan made a note. That works. We'll have the papers ready by Friday, serve her Saturday morning. In the meantime, I need you to do several things. First, open a separate bank account in your name only. Transfer exactly half of your joint savings. That's your legal right. Leave the rest untouched. What about the account she opened? The secret one? That's marital property acquired during the marriage, even if it's in her name only. We'll address it in the asset division. The fact that she hid it actually helps us. It's evidence of financial misconduct. We spent the next hour going through logistics. I'd need to find somewhere else to stay after she was served. Brennan recommended I be the one to leave the house initially, to show the court I was prioritizing stability for the children. My parents lived 20 minutes away. I could stay with them temporarily. What about custody during the separation? I asked. We'll propose primary physical custody with you, generous visitation for her. Given your documentation of being the primary caregiver and given her adultery, we have a strong position. She may fight it, but the evidence is on your side. Will she have to pay child support? Possibly. You make more than she does, but if you have primary custody, the calculation changes. We'll work through the numbers. He paused. David, I need to ask, are you prepared for how she's going to react? This will be devastating for her. People don't respond rationally when they're served with divorce papers. Good, I said. The coldness in my voice surprised even me. She should be devastated. She destroyed our marriage. She lied to our children. She stole from our family to fund her affair. She deserves to feel every bit of this. Brennan studied me for a moment. I understand the anger, but I need you to stay controlled. Don't engage if she tries to fight. Don't let her provoke you into saying or doing something that could be used against you in court. The moral high ground is your greatest asset right now. Don't surrender it. I left his office at 10:30 with a checklist of tasks and a court date set for 3 weeks out. The hearing would address temporary custody, support, and exclusive use of the marital home. By then, everyone would know. Our families, our friends, Emma's soccer team, Tyler's piano teacher. The carefully constructed facade of the Patterson family would be completely destroyed. But it was already destroyed. I was just making the destruction visible. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. I opened a new bank account at a different institution, transferred exactly $20,000 from our joint savings. I boxed up my essential belongings, clothes, toiletries, important documents, and moved them to my parents' house. I sat down with Emma and Tyler separately and told them that Mom and Dad were having some problems, that I might be staying at Grandma and Grandpa's for a little while, that none of it was their fault. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Are you getting divorced? I wanted to lie, to protect her for a few more days, but she was 13. She deserved honesty. I don't know yet, sweetheart. We're trying to figure things out. But no matter what happens, your mom and I both love you very much. That will never change. Tyler was quieter, more withdrawn. At 11, he didn't fully understand, but he knew something was wrong. I held him while he cried, promised him that he'd still have piano lessons, still have his room, still have both his parents even if we weren't all living in the same house. Jessica noticed the tension but misread it. Thursday night, she tried to initiate intimacy, probably feeling guilty about her plans for Friday, trying to maintain the pretense. I claimed exhaustion from work stress. She accepted this without question, rolled over, went to sleep. I lay awake, listening to her breathe, thinking about the watch hidden in her car, the hotel reservation she'd probably already made, the lies she'd tell tomorrow about where she was going. Friday morning arrived. Jessica was cheerful at breakfast, humming while she made coffee. She'd taken extra care with her appearance, hairstyled, makeup perfect, wearing one of the new outfits I'd documented. I have that curriculum workshop in Asheville today, she said, kissing my cheek. Probably won't be back until tomorrow afternoon. You okay handling the kids tonight? Of course, I said. We'll order pizza, watch a movie, have fun at your workshop. The lie rolled off her tongue so easily. 7 months of practice. I watched her drive away, then checked the tracking app on my phone. Her car headed west on I-40 toward Asheville, exactly as she'd claimed. I could have followed her, could have confirmed she was meeting Brian, could have confronted them both. Instead, I went to work, sat through meetings, reviewed spreadsheets, had lunch with Alan, who asked again if I was okay. Big changes coming, I said, but I think they're going to be good ones. At 3 p.m., I left the office and drove to my parents' house. My mother had prepared the guest room, asked gentle questions I deflected. My father, a retired attorney himself, understood without being told that something legal was in motion. You doing the right thing? He asked. Yes, I said. I am. Saturday morning, I woke up at 6. Drove to the house at 7:30, let myself in through the garage. Emma was already awake, eating cereal before her soccer game. Tyler was still asleep. Morning, Dad, Emma said. I thought you were staying at Grandma's. I am. Just came by to see you off to your game. Where's Mom? Still sleeping, I think. She got home late last night. I made coffee, helped Emma gather her soccer gear, drove her to the field myself. Stayed long enough to see her team warm up, then headed back to the house. Tyler was awake now, practicing piano. Jessica's car was in the driveway. At 9:15, right on schedule, a silver Honda pulled up to the curb. A woman in business casual got out, carrying a manila envelope. I opened the door before she could knock. David Patterson? That's me. She's upstairs, second door on the right. The process server, her name was Linda, Brennan had told me, nodded and headed up the stairs. I stayed in the kitchen, listening. A knock. A pause. Jessica's voice, confused. Can I help you? Jessica Patterson? I have documents for you. A longer pause. Then, what is this? You've been served. Have a good day, ma'am. Footsteps on the stairs. Linda leaving. The front door closing. Silence from upstairs. Then, David? David. I walked to the base of the stairs. Jessica stood at the top, still in her pajamas, holding the envelope. Her face was white. What is this? Her voice shook. What the hell is this? Divorce papers, I said calmly. I'm filing for divorce based on adultery. You're having an affair with Brian Kimball. I've known for 2 weeks. I have all the evidence, emails, financial records, location data, everything. She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. You... What? David, I don't know what you think you found, but... Stop. I kept my voice level. I read every email. I know about the Riverside Inn, about Columbia, about Asheville yesterday. I know about the secret bank account, the watch you bought him, the money you've been stealing from our family budget. I know everything, Jessica. Don't insult me by lying anymore. Her legs seemed to give out. She sat down hard on the top step, the papers spilling from her hands. Oh my God, oh my God. You need to read those papers carefully. I'm asking for primary custody of Emma and Tyler. You'll have visitation, but they're staying with me. I'm also asking for exclusive use of the house during the separation period. You can't... She looked up, tears streaming down her face. You can't take my children away from me. I'm not taking them away. You'll see them regularly. But I've been their primary caregiver for years, and I have documentation proving it. The court will see that. Because of the affair? Her voice rose. You're going to punish me by keeping me from my kids? I'm going to provide them with stability while you figure out your life. That's what parents do. She stood up, fury replacing shock. How dare you? How dare you act like you're some kind of saint? You've been cold and distant for years, David. Years. You stopped seeing me, stopped caring about what I needed. So you had an affair. I felt my control slipping, forced it back. You could have talked to me. You could have suggested counseling. You could have asked for a divorce. Instead, you lied for 7 months, spent thousands of our dollars on another man, and betrayed everything we built. I love him. She said it defiantly, like it justified everything. Brian loves me. He sees me, really sees me, in a way you haven't for years. Then be with him. I'm not stopping you. But you don't get to have both. The stable family life with me and the exciting affair with him. You made your choice. Now you live with the consequences. Tyler appeared at the bottom of the stairs, his face frightened. Dad? Mom? Why are you yelling? Jessica and I both stopped, staring at our son. He looked so small, so scared. This was exactly what I'd wanted to avoid, the kids witnessing the explosion. It's okay, buddy, I said, moving toward him. Mom and I are just having a disagreement. Why don't you go practice your piano? I'll be right there. He hesitated, looking between us, then slowly walked toward the living room. Jessica's voice dropped to a whisper. You bastard. You planned this. You timed it so the kids would see. I timed it so they'd be gone, I hissed back. Emma's at soccer. Tyler was supposed to be at piano. You changed his lesson time without telling me. She opened her mouth, closed it, looked down at the papers scattered on the floor. You need to get a lawyer, I said. The first hearing is in 3 weeks. Read the papers, follow the temporary custody schedule. And Jessica? I waited until she looked at me. Stay away from Brian Kimball until this is resolved. If you want any chance at shared custody, you need to show the court you're prioritizing the children. I turned and walked toward the living room, toward Tyler, toward the beginning of whatever came next. Behind me, I heard Jessica sink back down onto the step and begin to sob. The weeks that followed were brutal. Jessica hired an attorney, a shark named Patricia Vance, who immediately filed a counter motion claiming I'd abandoned the family by moving out, that my allegations of adultery were exaggerated, that Jessica deserved primary custody. But Brennan had prepared me well. We had the evidence organized, indexed, and ready. At the first hearing, the judge reviewed my documentation. 47 pages of spreadsheets, 234 screenshots, bank records showing the secret account and the cash withdrawals, location data, emails. Jessica's attorney tried to argue that I'd invaded her privacy, that the evidence was inadmissible. The judge disagreed. Email accessed on a shared family computer was fair game. Financial records from joint accounts were fair game. Location data from a phone on our shared family plan was fair game. The judge awarded me temporary primary custody. Jessica got the kids every other weekend and 1 evening per week. She was ordered to continue paying her share of the mortgage despite my exclusive use of the house. No temporary alimony was awarded. The adultery clause worked exactly as Brennan had predicted. Jessica fell apart. She called me crying, begging me to reconsider, claiming she'd made a mistake, that she'd ended things with Brian, that she wanted to work on our marriage. I didn't believe her. More importantly, I didn't care. The divorce took 14 months total. The mandatory 1-year separation plus 2 months of final negotiations. In the end, Jessica agreed to a settlement rather than go to trial. I kept the house, the majority of the retirement accounts, and primary custody. She got her teacher's pension, her car, and visitation that gradually increased as the kids adjusted. The secret bank account was split 50-50, which meant I recovered $2,000 of the money she'd stolen. The watch, which she'd apparently given to Brian before I served her, became a symbol of everything she'd lost. $3,000 for a man she'd known less than a year, while she threw away 15 years of marriage. Brian Kimball, I learned through the grapevine, had transferred to a different school district. The scandal had damaged his reputation too. Apparently, his principal had taken a dim view of his affair with a married colleague, even one from a different school. 2 years later, I stood in the kitchen of the same house, my house now, making breakfast for Emma and Tyler. They were adjusting. It hadn't been easy. Emma had spent months angry at both of us, acting out in ways that required family counseling. Tyler had become quieter, more withdrawn, though piano remained his refuge. But slowly, we'd found our rhythm. A new normal that didn't include Jessica living here, but did include regular video calls, weekend visits, and a tentative co-parenting relationship that prioritized the kids above our mutual resentment. Jessica had moved into an apartment near her school. She'd been dating someone new for a few months, not Brian, someone she'd met through friends. She seemed happy, or at least content. We were cordial at school events, civil in our exchanges, and occasionally even cooperative when the kids needed us to be. The rage had faded. Not disappeared. I don't know if it ever fully disappears, but it no longer controlled me. I'd done what I set out to do. Documented the betrayal, protected my interests, ensured there were consequences. The vindictive satisfaction I'd expected never really materialized. Instead, there was just the quiet relief of truth, the slow rebuilding of a life that was authentically mine. Emma came downstairs, already dressed for school, scrolling through her phone. 15 now, navigating high school with the same fierce determination she brought to soccer. "Dad, can Olivia come over after practice today?" "Sure, I'll order pizza." "You always order pizza. You always eat it." She rolled her eyes but smiled. These small moments, the eye rolls, the smiles, the casual requests, felt like victories. We were okay. Not perfect, not unmarked by what had happened, but okay. Tyler appeared next, sheet music tucked under his arm. 13 now, taller, his voice starting to change. He'd been accepted into a prestigious youth orchestra and spent hours practicing, losing himself in Chopin and Rachmaninoff. "Ready for your audition today?" I asked. "I think so. Mom said she'd try to come." "That's good. She should be there." And I meant it. Whatever Jessica had done to our marriage, she was still their mother. They needed her, and I'd never use them as weapons against her, no matter how much she'd hurt me. After I dropped them at school, I drove to work through familiar streets, thinking about the man I'd been 2 years ago. The one who'd discovered those emails and felt his entire world collapse. The one who'd methodically documented every betrayal, built an unassailable case, and executed a plan for consequences. I didn't regret it. Jessica's affair had destroyed our marriage, and she'd needed to face the full weight of what she'd done. But I also understood now that revenge, even justified revenge, doesn't heal you. It doesn't fill the hole left by betrayal. It doesn't make you whole again. What makes you whole is time and work and the slow rebuilding of trust in yourself and the world. It's showing up for your kids every single day. It's learning to be alone without being lonely. It's understanding that you can survive something you thought would destroy you. The moral of this story isn't complicated. Actions have consequences. Jessica made choices that shattered our family, and she paid a price for those choices. But I paid a price too. In anger carried, in innocence lost, in the recognition that nothing is as secure as you believe it to be. If there's a lesson beyond consequences, it's this. Betrayal reveals character, both in the person who betrays and the person who responds to it. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you stronger. You can use it as an excuse to become cruel, or you can use it as motivation to become better. I chose strength. I chose better. Not for Jessica, not for revenge, but for Emma and Tyler and for the man I wanted to be when I looked at myself in the mirror. That morning, driving to work under a clear Carolina sky, I realized I could finally look at myself without flinching. And that, more than any court victory or settlement agreement, felt like winning.